Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our July meeting. It's been a warm July, but that's not going to hold us back on the amount of work we're going to get accomplished tonight. It's a pretty full agenda, so everybody, welcome for coming. And are there any disclosures of interest from any of the members? Seeing none, then I will move on to minutes.
I have a motion that the minutes of the meeting held on June 16th, 2025 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried.
Council will now resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with the following business. First committee is strategic direction and development. First item relates to a commercial market study for the city of St. Thomas. I'll read the motion first, and we do have folks that are going to be making a presentation. Have a motion that report PD 3625 relating to the commercial market study for the city of St. Thomas be received for information, and further the council accept the report commercial market study for the city of St. Thomas dated May 9th as prepared by Watson and Associates with Dillon Consulting, and further that council directs staff to implement the policy direction found in the report commercial market study city of St. Thomas as prepared by Watson and Associates with Dillon Consulting as part of the official plan review. So we have Brad Post and Jamie Cook from Watson and Associates and Ron Shishido and Ashley North from Dillon Consulting to make a presentation.
Okay. I have them online. All right. I'm looking for where are we? Got it. Brad, are you up first?
Yes.
Then
I'll share my screen.
Okay.
While we're waiting, Your Worship, can I just confirm that Councillor Baldwin-Sands can hear us?
Yeah, I saw her hand up and I was going to ask the same thing. Lori, are you on with us and hearing us fine?
I can hear you.
Great.
Can you hear me?
I can so please wave that hand if you have any questions with us tonight too, and I'll keep watching for it. All right.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, Brad, if you're ready, please go ahead.
Thank you. Can I ask if everybody can see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is Brad Post, the Senior Project Coordinator from Watson and Associates. I'm here on behalf of Watson and Dillon Consulting, the consultants retained to complete this commercial market study. Over the past year, we've worked with the city staff to take a fresh look at the city's commercial areas, identify what is working well, what is under pressure, and where there are opportunities to strengthen the commercial base. Tonight, I'll briefly walk you through the study's key findings and recommendations. I'll keep things high level, and I'm happy to take questions afterwards. So let's begin with the purpose of the study. So Watson and Associates and Dillon Consulting were contained in the summer of 2024 to provide an updated commercial market study as part of the city's official plan review. Watson carried out the technical work of the study while Dillon provided the policy directions. The objective of the study is to assess the anticipated commercial market demand in the city to 2051 and identify the corresponding commercial gross floor area and land requirements over that period. The study provides further details on the commercial land requirements and GFA requirements by commercial use, and so that's provided in the study, recognizing that the commercial site requirements vary by commercial use. The study also provides strategic policy directions to strengthen the city's commercial structure, ensuring that it offers a range of commercial opportunities to support the city's anticipated population growth. So provided on this slide is a brief overview of the commercial market in terms of the considerations. So population is a key driver of commercial demand. Over the forecast horizon, the city is anticipated to experience strong population growth, adding about 33,000 residents from 2024 to 2051. In addition, the city in addition to the city's population base, the city's commercial base serves a large extended trade area. And that provides an additional 45% of the population beyond this city's boundary. So essentially, the city's commercial base not only supports the city, but a large extended trade area that provides an additional 45% of the population base. In terms of the e-commerce impact, we have considered the impact of e-commerce. While e-commerce continues to grow, it's important to note that 90% of retail sales still occur in physical stores. The real shift is in how retail space is being used. Many bricks and mortar stores now support e-commerce functions through online order pickups, returns and warehousing. And so this means that the physical retail space is evolving and it's not disappearing. With regards to St. Thomas's local commercial market, the vacancy rate is estimated at 7%, which is within a healthy range. We are seeing increased activity in commercial development through intensification. So in terms of that trade area that I was previously talking about, this slide here provides a map of the city's estimated trade areas. So the green area represents the secondary trade area. So these are basically the municipalities that are adjacent to the city of St. Thomas. And then in the center of the trade area, we have the city of St. Thomas representing the primary trade area. So overall, the trade area of St. Thomas is anticipated to support a population growth of just under 45,000 over the next 25 years. So a key consideration when we're doing these commercial land needs assessments is looking at the opportunities for intensification and determining what types of commercial uses could be accommodated through intensification. So this slide here provides a summary of the types of commercial uses that we anticipate that would be accommodated through intensification. So some of the uses include medical, healthcare, personal services, specialty food store, restaurants, business services. These type of uses typically have a smaller building footprint. And we're anticipating that the commercial demand of these types of uses would accommodate so intensification would accommodate about 20% of the commercial GF gross floor area growth over the next 25 years. So in terms of the commercial land requirements for commercial uses that require vacant sites, greenfield type development, the city has about a supply of about 9 hectares of vacant designated commercial land. And this simply isn't enough to accommodate the anticipated commercial growth that's needed to support the population growth over the next 25 years. And so we estimate that the city would require about 33 hectares of vacant designated commercial lands to support the commercial growth that's anticipated. And so when you factor the supply and the demand, we get a shortfall of about 24 hectares. So in the market study report, we provide some detail on the commercial requirements by different commercial uses. And so there's very detailed tables in the report. This slide here provides a summary of those findings. And so we grouped it into 3 categories. So the first category being the food store anchored retail development. So there's a need based on the amount of population growth anticipated, there's a need for about 8 hectares of land to support these type of developments. The second part is the home improvement uses. And so these uses include like hardware stores, paint stores, building supply stores that typically require land extensive uses. And so we're anticipating about just some moderate amount, about 2 hectares. And then we have the third category called non-food store uses. And so basically these include a wide range of uses, including furniture stores, appliance stores, apparel, general merchandise, and dollar stores. And so what we're anticipating is about a demand or a need of about 14 hectares. So, and it's important to recognize that these land requirements are for over a 25-year period. And so these land requirements will not be required immediately, but the city will need to plan for it in the long plan for it, and is considering the amount of population growth that's anticipated. This slide here provides illustrates the city's growth area. So these are the areas that have been recently brought into the city's municipal boundary. So there's 4 areas, and on this map we also identified the strategic locations of the commercial developments that would be required. And what we're saying here is that and we provide more details in the report, but we identified basically that these areas would be an appropriate location for commercial uses. We recognize that there's a need to ensure that we are providing good distribution of commercial space across the city, and these areas represent new areas that are being added to the city. And the other key point too is that it's important to recognize that the commercial components of these new growth areas will likely be the last thing that's built within the community. So we recognize that population growth will need to be first demonstrated within these areas to support the commercial space in these areas. So in terms of our strategic policy directions, I will be really high level here. Dillon Consulting can expand on this more if there are any questions. But so this slide here provides the 5 key policy direction themes in the report, and I'll just briefly go over them. So a key recommendation is to support the distribution of retail and commercial space across the city. This includes supporting growth through intensification within the city's existing commercial lands while supporting the development of new commercial areas. And this will involve some changes to the city's commercial structure in terms of designations. The second part is recommend that the city continue to support the business employment designation. This designation permits specific commercial uses that are and uses adjacent to the city's industrial areas. And they basically support the function of the industrial areas, recognizing that industrial areas require commercial amenities to support employees and businesses in the area, as well as the opportunity to accommodate commercial uses that may require alternative locations in the city's commercial areas. So the third thing is a key challenge for the city will be the need to embrace mixed use opportunities, which includes balancing the strong demand for housing while protecting the commercial function of commercial areas. And so it's recommended that the city require a commercial function study for any commercial development applications that are seeking to add residential uses to the site. And we think this is important in order to protect the commercial function of the site. So we want to make sure that we are supporting mixed use sites, but at the same time, we're protecting the commercial function of the site. And then it is recommended that city establish a land conversion criteria for commercial lands, recognizing the city has a limited supply of commercial land. So we really need to make sure that we're making the most effective use of the remaining commercial lands that the city has. And as I noted earlier, there's a supply of like 9 hectares of vacant commercial lands in the city right now. And finally, the city should encourage commercial intensification on existing commercial lands. This will provide opportunities to especially in the short term, to accommodate commercial development that can't be accommodated through greenfield sites. So that concludes my presentation on the city's commercial market study. So I can take some questions.
Any questions from council? Councilor Warkey.
Thanks, Your Worship. I have one question and then one kind of comment. You mentioned this right at the end of your presentation regarding the fact that you have to have the residential in there first for the commercial to then be built. Now, we've had examples of this in the city in the past where, let's say you have a commercial designation near a residential subdivision, but then no commercial comes in there. I guess from my point of view is, it doesn't take long for there to be pressure on council to convert that to some other zoning that can be used more quickly. So from your point of view, is there a time horizon? Like, let's say we designate something that's commercial and it sits there for 15 years and doesn't get used. Is there some kind of expiration date on this, or is this something that in perpetuity we would need to keep? So I guess my question is, from other municipalities' experiences, what do people do with this designated land that's not being used, that is, for instance, abutting a residential area where there could be 1,000 homes, but no one has deemed it to be something they want to put a commercial property on? So that's my question, then just a comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lou, you going on this?
Yeah, through you,
Okay.
if I can start. One of the key directives that we have here, and that's a great question, Councillor Wookie, is to establish some commercial land conversion criteria, which we currently don't have. And other municipalities do have that in their OP, so that if that situation comes up, we have a land use basis and some clear criteria that we can use to justify, the redesignation away from commercial. So right now, our OP is lacking in that, but one of the directives is to establish those land conversion criteria to address those very specific, that issue that you raised.
And Your Worship, and then one comment, and this is to everyone in the room. Like, when I read this report, I thought, my note by my page is this should totally be something done as a region of us, South Holden, Central Elgin. Like, I guess part of it is I read this and I think we just don't have that much space inside of St. Thomas, and that, I don't want to dump this on our friends in Central Elgin, but like, I think a Sunset Drive and its development as being a place where some of this may be. So my comment is, I'm hoping that we can look at this as a region, because I'm not sure that doing it on our own makes sense. And that's just my comment. And I'm hoping that we can get our friends in South Holden, Central Elgin to talk about this very important issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baldwin Sands, I saw your hand, and then I've got Councillor Herbert.
Thank you very much. My question is in regards to one of the first slides to one of the last slides. First of all, thank you to Councillor Wookie for bringing up the idea of commercial space. I was going to ask for the same area in regards to the Shell Valley area and the Sunset Drive area. But my question will now focus on, in the first couple of slides, there was about the need for medical space and space for family doctors. Family doctors was not identified, but there was for medical space. And then I didn't see it in any of the follow-up slides. So I was hoping for somewhere where you feel the number of hectares, et cetera, we can accommodate and realize that we need more medical space for family doctors and specialists for offices offsite. Is there someone that can answer that for me, please?
Who wants that one? I see Lou approaching the podium, so I'll give it to him.
Yeah, through your worship, a good question, and the consultant team can chime in here too if I'm misdirecting the answer. But basically, I think what the study was identifying, that there are various needs, and they were identified in that slide dealing with commercial uses that can be accommodated through intensifications, and like medical offices, doctors' offices. Those are specific uses that don't require large, in most situations, don't require large land holdings, and they can be accommodated through a lot of intensification opportunities, so that they are in locations that where they're closer to the public. So there will be a lot of intensification opportunities as the city grows and evolves, and that was identified as a use along with others like personal services, food stores, specialty food stores, restaurants and business services that can be accommodated throughout the city by way of intensification.
Okay. Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. Might as well stay, Lou. If I recall, when I came on the council, by Miller's Pond, we put that new subdivision was going to be developed. And at the end of the far one, they left a big vacant lot. And I don't know if we owned it, or if the developer owned it, to build a school. So, and I believe it was 5 years. They asked the Thames Valley Board, we're going to put a school in, and they said no. So I'm getting kind of Council Wookie's, what's the time frame? So they said no, so they built houses on it. So I don't know who makes that decision in the end if Thames Valley doesn't want it. Do we have any say in it, or? That's my question. I could be wrong on the time frame, but
Mr. Pompili, he's fairly close to right. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's really a decision between the school board and then developer. There are set timeframes and the criteria for in those situations, but I think in the case that you're explaining, I think the school boards agreed that those lands were no longer required or met their current needs as opposed to the original needs when they identified for those lands to be set aside.
one more, sure.
yeah, follow-up question on this one here. That would be pretty disappointing for the people who were moved to that area in the beginning. They're told there's going to be a school down here at the end. And then all of a sudden they say no. So anyway, it's not fair maybe, but I guess it is fair. They've said, but 5 years they asked them later. So anyway, your worship was, how far was I right or wrong? You mentioned I was close.
Yes. Yeah. Councillor Peters?
Thanks, Your Worship. I just want to comment, support what Councillor Wookie said 100%, because there's no way that we're going to be able to pull this off on our own. We need Central Elgin and Southwold to make this happen. There's no way it's not going to happen. You know, I have concerns in this of looking at areas 2 through 4, Fingal Hill and top of Horseshoe Hill. It's going to be years before that is developed. So you know, that, and the other thing that troubles me, and Lou knows this has been a beef of mine, this does not solve the corner store issue for me. The southwest corner of St. Thomas, if you live out there at Centennial and Southdale, you still have to walk a mile to Fairview and a mile up Fairview to Elm Street to get to a corner store for a child or a young family. And this doesn't solve this. But my big question is, so if we're going to focus on Area 1, that's the biggest residential development we've got. Southwold has large residential development going on. Are we then going to change our official plan and say to the force the property owner to say, look, if you have visions of residential, that's not happening. We've identified that as commercial. So are we going to lay out what we want to have happen and not have the developer drive our agenda of saying, you know what, we can make more money off of residential? Do we stand up and say as a council, no, we want Area 1 to be commercial development?
Lou? Mr. Pompili?
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. No, great points, great comments, and yeah, that's where this is all leading to. What this eventually leads to is the next steps for us will be, you know, we're going to be developing some new commercial land use structures for the city, and we're going to through our official plan update create that hierarchy of different various commercial uses that's lacking now, and also try to develop a plan for where some of those commercial nodes and new growth areas should be located. Through that commercial structure, hierarchy structure, and through identifying various commercial nodes, we will identify where those areas should be located within the city and pre-designate them. And then we'll have that criteria in place too, in terms of evaluating the removal of any commercial land. So there's a lot of work ahead. This is the first step. The fine work that our consultants have done to kind of now put it on our plate to, you know, establish the hierarchy, establish the goals, and start identifying those nodes and corridors for future commercial development.
Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Your Worship. I think we got to remember too that any growth outside of our boundaries doesn't help us in the sense of the taxes go somewhere else. So I think we have to start to take a look at our 7% vacancy rate and also take a look at the whole topic of intensification and what can we do with Talbot Street. and look at more incentives and more novel ideas and ways to create infill down Center Street, all those parking lots on either side streets and down the main street, because big box stores in Central Elgin or Southwold don't help us in terms of taxes.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. I was going to suggest a similar thing. We can't, and many municipalities look at it exactly the same way, but you can't forget about your downtown commercial. And while there's still a vacancy rate in our downtown, and of late, exceptionally good infill in our downtown, a lot more growth than there's been in a number of years, even with the growth of commercial space on either end of downtown. We've got to be careful that we're not going to hurt the heart of our community by making people move to the edges of town rather than being successful in the downtown. But I think this is, as Lou said, the first step. We have an idea now, much like we did with the first Watson report about population growth. We now have a commercial growth rate that we need to look at as a community and say, now where does that go? Who are we talking about and where are we talking about it? So I think, much like I've said with a number of other things, this will come back to council 2 or 3 times in the future as we go through the new OP, our new official plan, and how to zone properties as we grow. And as Councillor Wookey has said, it's a tightening situation. We're I won't say running out of land, but we can see the end of it from where we're currently standing. So thank you very much for this report. I think it really helps us also know what number of hectares or what size and growth needs to happen in St. Thomas at its edges and in its middle. So get ready, folks. We got lots more to cover. Any other questions while I have council here? Nope. Great. Well, thank you for your report tonight, and thank you for sharing that with us. As we have more questions, we know who to reach out to, but thank you for a very comprehensive report that really helps us with the huge amount of growth that we're seeing in St. Thomas, both from a population and from a commercial entity point of view. So thanks.
Your worship, I just need a mover and a seconder for the resolution. Moved by Councillor Gibson, second by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments further? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
Our next item relates to the Railway Lands Area Secondary Plan, Proposed Study Area and Project Process. I have motion that report PD 3725 relating to the Railway Lands Area Secondary Plan Proposed Study Area and Project Process be received for information, and further the council directs staff to undertake the Railway Lands Area Secondary Plan study using the process outlined in the Railway Lands Area Secondary Plan Proposed Study Area and Project Process dated June 2025. And further, the council directs staff to consider the use of a community planning permit system for the Railway Lands Secondary Plan area and report back to council on the appropriateness of using this tool for the area following the completion of the Railway Lands Area Secondary Plan study. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Councillor Kohler first, then Councillor Gibson.
Thanks, Your Worship. I think it's fitting that this report follows the one that we just had, because I think perfect opportunity to look at the secondary plan to address some of the issues that we just talked about, and the mixed use that could possibly happen within that site and within even the current museum to help address some of those concerns. And looking forward to this report coming back and seeing the development of that site.
Great. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too very happy to see this come forward this evening. I have one question though. So under financial impact, it said something with some cost recovery tools to be discussed through secondary plan process. So does that mean at some point it'll come back to us that they'll be asking for some financial support from us? Or are they looking at government grants or some other grant money coming in or donations?
Okay, I'll maybe throw it to Mr. Pompili or we know it involves both the owners of the land inside the large boundary of secondary plan and the city, because we have land in there too.
Yeah.
Mr. Pompili?
Yeah, there will be some cost recovery tools that we'll have to talk about in terms of, whether it's through DCs or through development that will help fund some of the works of developing the area plan. We're going to be developing in terms of reference and bringing that to council soon. And in that, there'll be more detail in that terms of reference that speaks to that. And a lot of it also will depend on the stakeholder interest that we get from various property owners. Right now, we have Doug Terry's group as the main stakeholder, but we're hoping that we can get others as we start with our public engagement and stakeholder meetings. So yeah, more information will come out on that.
Councillor Gibson, another question?
I was just wondering if it would be in this budget or next budget? If the recovery was to come about, like sooner rather than later?
Mr. Pompilli, your thoughts? I would guess.
Through your worship, there's no new funds out of this budget that I can think of currently. Something may come out when we put our terms of reference together, but we'll go through our process if there is any new funding available for this budget term. Otherwise, we'll be identifying it in the 2026 budget. We are one of the landowners as well, too, so there are costs, but most of them will be absorbed through our staff participation.
So, Mr. Pompilli, while I have you there, I'm going to ask the obvious questions. We talked about this 6 months ago when we first started headed down this path, and we said at that meeting we touched this thing probably 100 or 150 times. We're now starting to touch it with Bosveld and the Doug Terry group. We know that the Railway Museum and the Railway Works group are neighboring in there also, but there's a number of other property owners and landowners that touch on the secondary plan area we're trying to talk about. How do we make a better reach out to them? How do we try to get everybody who has property within the boundary of our secondary plan to also be involved rather than waiting for it to finish, but to be involved as we're going?
Yeah, no, absolutely, Your Worship. Great question. And that's one of the first tasks that staff are going to be leading in terms of launching the area study, is doing that public engagement and getting that out there. That's the very first step in this. And staff will be leading that. And we'll have the support there from the consulting team, but staff will lead that process to get that out there, to generate the interest, communicate the purpose, and to gauge interest in terms of anybody that wants to participate and at what level they want to participate in.
Okay. Yeah. Councillor Peters, I saw your hand.
Yeah, thanks very much, Your Worship. I certainly support on page 121 of the agenda, page 7 of Bowsfield's report, an expanded study area boundary.
Right.
And I actually think we almost need to have an option 3 in this, Lou, of looking at extended study area boundary all the way down the railway land corridor. I know that there's, the Fairview Ave Bridge is going to disappear. We've already approved a development at Park and Talbot. There's some interest, I know, from a local developer in land on the east side of Park Ave, south of Talbot, between Warehouse. And, there's a lot of vacant land all through there. And I'm all for option 2, but I'm game to see us even look further at an option 3. But the one question that that I have is, how do we as a city defend the process in ensuring that people don't look at this as a conflict of interest of being a Doug Terry / Bowsfield led process that we are going to tag along with? There's already been a lot of stuff. There's a lot of people in the community that don't like what's happening as it is already. And how do we protect the city to make sure that it's an unbiased process that takes place, and that ultimately in the end, whatever happens, it's going to have the city's final stamp of approval on it and not a particular developer's stamp of approval on it. So how do we protect ourselves going forward? And as I say, is there any merit, Michelle, in expanding the study area further? Thanks, Your Worship.
Please.
So no problem. So through your worship, so we can certainly look at the possibilities of expanding the study area. I think we're planning to report back about the study area when we come forward with the terms of reference. So we can kind of help establish that on kind of a go forward basis to form a basis for the study. We can look at that. We'll certainly look at that further. Just then in terms of your question about sort of how do we make it so that, this is something that comes back, it's not sort of a developer study, a developer's OPA. That's one of the big reasons why it's going to be a city initiated OPA at the end, because, we're all working together through this process going forward. But ultimately what comes forward will be brought forward by staff. It'll be through a thorough public engagement process. We've built in a lot of council touch points, a lot of public touch points. So because it's, it'll be city initiated, so anything we bring forward, we'll be completely comfortable with.
Councillor Peters, follow up?
My final supplementary on this one, Your Worship, and Michelle, you may as well stay there. It's on the technical advisory committee that's proposed. I think it's important to have all the players in the jigsaw puzzle as part of that. But again, when you're developing the terms of reference for this, I would encourage you to give consideration to, is the opportunity there to have some public participation as part of that technical advisory committee? Like, as Councillor Wookey says, there's, he's a planner, he's an engineer. There's all kinds of desktop planners and engineers that are out there too, but a lot of those individuals have a lot of good ideas. And if there's an opportunity to engage public participation in the technical advisory role, I would really encourage that. Thank you.
Great. Great. We've touched it again. We're on our way to the secondary plan. Thank you. And really, to answer one of your first questions, Councillor Peters, is it has to end up here. The secondary plan does come back to this group once we massage it with all that public participation and landowner participation. It does come back to council with what the report looks like. So we'll continue to work on it. Further questions or comments? Councillor Wookey.
Thanks very much. Just real quick one. I really appreciate what the planning department's done in the last 5 years or so, because there was a time, and I'm not trying to be critical, but just the way it was, is that we would sometimes get planning stuff at like the last minute and we had to say yes or no. And there wasn't really a chance for us to say, can we tweak this a bit? Can we do something else? And I deeply appreciate the fact that Lou and his group keep us in the loop as time passes. Right. And it's not a fait accompli that we got to say yes to, or if we say no, then we're the bad guys. So thanks to that group for their ongoing, faith in us to be able to look at things rationally. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to an application for a zoning amendment, to remove the holding zone symbol from lands at 4 West Pearl Street. I have motion that report PD 3425 relating to an amendment to the zoning bylaw to remove the holding zone symbol from lands at 4 West Pearl Street be received for information, and further that the application by Geography 312 Incorporated for an amendment to the City of St. Thomas zoning bylaw 50-88 to remove the holding symbol from lands at 4 West Pearl Street be approved, and staff be authorized to prepare an amending bylaw, and further that notice of council's intention to pass an amending bylaw to remove a holding symbol from zoning bylaw 50-88 as amended be given pursuant to Ontario Regulation 545/06. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Wookey.
Questions or comments? Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. This is for my own information. How is a holding zone applied to that area? How does it become an H? Do we do it? Developer does it? Or you do it? Thank you.
No, through your worship, a good question. When those lands were zoned to allow the list of permitted uses, there was some environmental studies that were done that identified that there's a small corner of that property that has some identified as a potential for some environmental concerns. So we put a holding provision on there to ensure that we don't prematurely issue a building permit for development without a thorough review of that study to remove the holding provision. So it's just there to sort of to put a pause on development, make sure that appropriate works and studies get done. So they were done, they were submitted, they were reviewed. So now we're comfortable removing that holding provision so those lands can proceed through and be developed. The developer there is proposing a new housing development, much needed. So we're looking forward to that getting started.
Okay, further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to a CIP project for the same property at 4 West Pearl Street. A motion that report PD 2725 relating to a community improvement project by Geography 312 Incorporated for 4 West Pearl Street be received for information. And further, the council approve a residential grant and loan, development charge grant, tax increment grant, planning and building fees grant, and environmental site assessment grant for application 2025-149 as submitted by Geography 312 Incorporated for 4 West Pearl Street. And further, the council direct that a bylaw be prepared to enter into a residential loan agreement with Geography 312 Incorporated relating to the CIP project at 4 West Pearl Street. Moved by Councillor Taylor, second by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next report relates also to a CIP project for the property at 225 Wellington Street. I have a motion that report PD 3225 relating to a community improvement program environmental site assessment grant for 225 Wellington Street be received for information. And further, the council direct that a bylaw be prepared to enter into an environmental site assessment grant agreement with the Elgin County Railway Museum Incorporated relating to CIP application 2025-151. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to a CIP project for the property at 750 Talbot Street. I have a motion that report PD 3325 relating to a community improvement project by the North America Railway Hall of Fame for 750 Talbot Street be received for information. And further, that council approve a heritage facade and building improvement grant for application 2025-150 as submitted by North America Railway Hall of Fame for 750 Talbot Street. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to the first report of the 2025 Site Plan Control Committee. I have a motion that report PD 3525 relating to site plan application numbers SPC 0125, 225, 325, 425, 525, 625, and SPC 0824 be received for information. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund. Climate adaptation analysis and plan funding. Of motion that reports CMO 3325 relating to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund, climate adaptation analysis and plan funding be received for information. And further, the council approve an allocation of $40,000 to support the development of the City of St. Thomas climate adaptation analysis and plan in alignment with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund grant.
No move.
Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Your Worship. As we've seen on the news recently, the devastating floods that have occurred down in the southern United States, will this report also identify areas of floodplain within the City of St. Thomas? And ways to get around development in them?
I would suggest yes, that our conservation authorities do already track floodplain areas, but as things change from a climate diversification point of view, I'm sure they also have to. I see Ms. Mooney on with us.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Preston. Just to address Councillor Taylor's question, absolutely. A climate adaptation plan will help us identify our local vulnerabilities, specifically to things like you said, like flooding and heat and storm impacts on infrastructure and services. So that will definitely be addressed as part of this project.
Okay, further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to the 2024 strategic plan update and annual report. I have motion that report CMO 3425 relating to the 2024 strategic plan action plan update and annual report be received for information. And further, the council endorsed the draft strategic plan annual report for release to residents and stakeholders, demonstrating the city's commitment to transparency, accountability, and continued progress in implementing the 2024 to 2027 St. Thomas Strategic Plan, Brighter Future. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Peters.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. To Taylor, you know, we've already had a lot on our agenda tonight on, you know, commercial activity, commercial growth. You know, we've just seen some site plan control reports regarding housing, another report regarding another housing initiative. We just talked about the green initiatives. You know, the police chief has an important report coming up later tonight on Bill 10 and enhancing community safety. So how do you ensure that all these moving parts that are continuing to happen as we evolve and grow as a community, how do you ensure that they get incorporated into and to keep this as a living, moving document?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Preston, to Councillor Peters. So specifically for that, I would suggest that as part of the fall internal planning that staff intend to do and is outlined in the report, that will give us the opportunity to look at where maybe there's some opportunities or weaknesses based on our current trends from the past year, and ensure that those are submitted as part of the 2026 action plan edits that will come to council. As well, if there's a need for a special council meeting where council members want to bring up their ideas for new action plan items, like I said, for 2026, that will become an annual process in the fall. So happy to discuss those changes at that time.
Ms. Moody, thank you. That was a discussion that occurred today also, that we're moving along well on our strategic plan, but we haven't really done it at this table yet. And so I'm glad you mentioned exactly what we're talking about is we see it all happening. And as Councillor Peters says, we can connect a lot of different things to our own strategic plan, but I sure want to give us a chance as a council fairly soon for us to say, hey, where do you all feel we are on each of these topics? So perfect. Thank you for sharing that with us today. Further comments or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Oh, Councillor Baldwin-Sands, that was a vote. Okay, good. Thanks. I thought I missed your hand. Next item.
Next two items relate to Committee of Adjustment. The first one, notice of a public meeting on July 24th at 10 a.m. regarding an application for a minor variance by William and Courtney McDowell to permit a porch 3.88 meters from the front lot line, whereas the minimum front yard depth is 6 meters, and also to permit eaves and an eaves trough to project an additional 0.6 meters into the front yard, whereas the minimum setback from the front lot line is 5.25 meters, and that's for the property at 49 Steele Street. The second is notice of a decision received from the Committee of Adjustment regarding severance of land area 1699 square meters from 61 Harper Road to be merged with lands at 76 Progress Drive. The retained lands with an area of 1629.9 square meters will be merged with lands at 82 Progress Drive. Your Worship, that concludes the items for this committee, unless there are any items from the members.
Seeing none.
We'll now move into community engagement and services. First item relates to the Adult Day Program expansion. I have a motion that report VV0225 relating to Adult Day Program expansion be received for information. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Councillor Clark.
Well, thanks, Your Worship. Just wondering, it mentions that we're limited by the funding and that the Ontario Health West kind of drives the whole project because of the funding that they support it with. I'm just wondering though, based on the fact that it mentions that we do have space at Valley View, if the funding was there, how many more city residents we've got 70 in the program. If we were to stay on our property, what would the capital cost be and what would the equipment cost be? Are those capital and equipment costs covered by the province or are they covered by us and then they supply the operating cost?
Mr. Carroll, always good to have you at our meetings. We don't get to see enough of you, so.
It's always good to be here, Your
Your
Worship.
going as well as ours.
Yeah, it's hot.
Yes,
It's very, we had to cancel our barbecue at Valley View because of the weather.
yes.
It was too hot. To answer your question, Alderman Clark, certainly all the funding for the Adult Day Program, or a vast majority of it, 95%, depending on the year, does come from Ontario Health West. And we are anticipating that when this bill moves its way through provincial parliament, that we will receive a substantial amount of funding for expansion of the Adult Day Program. So when that funding is made available to us, we certainly have plans ready to move forward in expanding the program on its current site. And even if the funding is very, very substantial, expanding the program on another site. We can expand the program right now on Saturday, on Sunday. We can introduce 2 or 3 more evening programs, and we can expand our night programs, our overnight programs. We do 3 days right now, I believe, and that can be expanded, of course, to 4. So we do have an opportunity to move forward as soon as this funding becomes available to us.
Go ahead, Councillor Clark.
So if we've got the space already and we already have the equipment that's sitting there not being used on those times, is it just a staff cost to expand the program? And based on that, you know, what would an extra session cost per, you know, how would it break down? And you mentioned units before. You know, if we wanted to run a Thursday night program for 4 hours, how many people would that accommodate and at what cost if it was directly city costs?
Yeah, it's certainly, if you run a Thursday program, for example, you can have anywhere from 5 to 10 people attend that particular program, depending on if people want to come and if we have the staff to do it. We would need 2 staff members to offer that service, and we would also have to provide transportation to that, to and fro the program for those that wish to take part in that particular service on that particular evening. So you're probably looking at rough, I'm ballparking this right now, probably a $50,000 cost to run that program for 50 weeks for the year.
I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Thank you. I have been very appreciative and very fortunate to see how this program has grown and served the residents of our community and helping to increase the capacity of this day program to help build the supports that people need in this community to stay in their homes longer. And I appreciate that we are continuing to adapt and to improve this service. And I appreciate what Mr. Carroll is saying about the increased capacity and the ways to look at creatively creating more spaces and enhancing the services there at Valley View. And that is why I fully support this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Further questions or comments? Councillor Wookey.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just an anecdotal comment, Mike. This is a program I value personally very highly. And I'm not speaking on behalf of my colleagues, but for myself, don't be bashful about asking us for more money for this for next year because Like I've seen it both firsthand, secondhand, the value of this program. And every time we talk about it, I'm just hoping that we can get more places here because it just does such outstanding service for both the people and the caregivers who help those people. Thank you.
Great. Councillor Clark, you're back.
Yeah, I guess my supplementary would be to ask for a further report at budget time where we could talk about expanding the program in some of those gaps. So if we've got the facility and we have the equipment, then, you know, $50,000 for 5 or 10 more people in a year, I think it's highly worth it. So I'd love to have further discussion on that. So feel free to bring it back.
You'll take that as direction, Mr. Carroll?
I certainly will.
Would you also keep us posted on the funding from Health West? I mean, I hear it's imminent, but
yeah,
you know, what imminent is from government, other government sources sometimes isn't the same as ours.
Yes.
But please keep us posted. We'd love to be able to make that decision as soon as you know it.
I will certainly do that, Your Worship.
Super.
Yeah.
Thanks. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you, Mr. Carroll.
Next item relates to the Veterans Memorial Garden Interpretive Kiosk Project. I have a motion that report PRF 2625 relating to the Veterans Memorial Garden Interpretive Kiosk Project be received for information, and further, the council directs staff to collaborate with the Veterans Memorial Garden Committee on this initiative. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments on the project, on the report? Councillor Gibson.
Thank you very much to the department staff looking at this and having another asset in the area that will give great history to some of the young people that really are not familiar or attached to anything. Even with Afghanistan war, there's very few veterans that we have in our area, but it's an important honor for them to be serving for. So I certainly appreciate this opportunity for the children to learn about the history and why we have the things we have today.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Peters.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. Related to this, I'm wondering if if there's any update on the status of the crosswalks that were going to be painted in conjunction with the Memorial Garden.
Oh. Mr. Dealeybeck, you thought you were going to get out without talking to, no.
Not at all.
Kevin, great. Please help us out.
Through the mayor to Councillor Peters, we've heard back from the Legion. We're waiting to hear back from the combat engineers, and we'll bring that back to council.
Mm-hmm. So do you feel comfortable before Remembrance Day of this year?
Through the mayor, absolutely. That's the intent.
Super. So on the Veterans Memorial Kiosk, further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to an updated Kettle Creek Leash-Free Dog Park Agreement and Memorandum of Understanding. I have a motion that report PRF 2825 relating to the Kettle Creek Leash-Free Dog Park Agreement and Memorandum of Understanding be received for information, and further, the council approved the amended Memorandum of Understanding between the city, the municipality of Central Elgin, and the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority, noting that the agreement has been vetted and approved in principle by all parties, and further, that council direct that a bylaw be prepared for the mayor and clerk to sign the Memorandum of Understanding relating to the Kettle Creek Leash-Free Dog Park for the continued partnership. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments on the agreement on the dog park? If I can just speak on behalf of Ruben and Soleil and Paris, our puppies, they love the place, but could we put in a splash pad for dogs? Okay, I didn't really ask that. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to the update to the Elmer Elgin St. Thomas Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. I have a motion that reports CMO 3525 relating to the update to the Elmer St. Thomas Elgin Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan be received for information, and further, that Council of the City of St. Thomas hereby endorses the Elmer Elgin St. Thomas Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan update, and further, that a copy of the Elmer Elgin St. Thomas Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan and the 2025 update be posted on the municipality's website. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Councillor Clark.
What group monitors the progress made in this report? Like, just wonder who it goes back to. I don't recall getting any kind of reports on the plan after we pass it every year or every so many years. And I'm just wondering.
Yeah, we have between monthly and quarterly meetings of the group that you see in here that includes myself from the city of St. Thomas, a number of people. But you're right, we probably should be reporting back to this council more often on the total plan. The total plan is a county-wide plan, a community and safety plan. So I chair the committee with the warden of the year. And then I love your suggestion. Well, I'll try and find a way for us to bring this back to us more often. This is reporting backwards now for how did we get to where we are today. And we seem to be a fair bit ahead of many communities on how well our community and safety well-being plan is and the reports that are given by our members at our committee. But you're right, this is great information for the public. We should make it come to council so that it gets out to the public too. Councillor Peters?
Thanks very much, Your Worship. This would be to Chief Roskamp. One of the goals is to encourage youth activity, participating in building healthier communities and school visits. And I know the province has recently made some changes that is finally going to allow you and police services to get back into schools. Is there anything that you can update us on school visits? Because, it's long overdue and I'm glad that it's happening. And I certainly know you are too.
Okay. Chief, thank you for your hard work on it. Now tell us how it's going.
Through Your Worship to Councillor Peters, this has been a long path, dated back to about 2021 with the removal of police officers in both school boards from attending schools. In fact, removing the welcome for us to attend schools. So it's been something that's been near and dear to all of us. We've pushed on it. I've pushed on it. I've taken this one on. And I can tell you the new legislation that is proposed for the fall provincially puts us back into the classrooms unabated, right back to where we were pre-2021. We've been working prior to this announcement on ways to get back in with both school boards. I've met with both directors in the last 2 years as chief. I've met with both with the trustees from both school boards, principals, teachers, vice principals. These meetings don't stop. I can tell you, and you do know this, everyone knows this, that there's a desire for us to be back in the schools, for the school community, for the school administrations, for teachers to provide a resource. We never did say that we were experts in the curriculum, nor did we want to teach curriculum, but there are some things we believe that we are subject matter experts in, that we could provide that presence in the schools. Not only that, but to reduce the issues we're seeing in schools and the violence we're seeing in schools. And we have data, and I had an analysis done in our own schools. Over the last several years, it has increased. Violence in schools in St. Thomas alone has increased 55%. It equaled once every 2 days we were in schools in St. Thomas alone. And I would bring this data to both boards, and they welcomed the information. And that is why we were on a path pre this legislation announcement to return, but it was not in a full capacity. It might have been on a Wednesday morning or a Thursday afternoon, which in my opinion was not enough. And so we see that this fall we're going to return. The legislation is written that those that provide that service, the jurisdictions that provide that service, the police services, the school boards must accept it. And so we're moving towards that path. I've got a meeting set with all principals and vice principals in late August to have them in the boardroom at police headquarters to have a discussion about how it's going to look when we roll over after Labor Day, and we'll ease into it. And but there needs to be a full return to curb some of these behaviors in an unannounced visit type type of program. We're there not to gather intelligence and enforce. We're there for high fives and to play intramurals and to connect with kids, just as our obligation is under the Act. So I hope that answers your questions.
Councillor Clark?
Thanks. On the same topic, I know the program was very successful in secondary schools with the matching of an officer to a high school community officer. Has there been any discussions in some of the larger elementary schools or schools where there's a large number of, say, senior students, 7s and 8s, where a similar program might be piloted?
Through your worship to Councillor Clark, you mean matching the right officer to the school or just to a demographic of students?
Well, just in the previous program, an officer would be assigned to high school X or a couple, but the students would get to know that officer. It wasn't whoever was on the beat that day was an assigned officer, and that program seemed to work well. But I've just seen the needs because of the violence in elementary schools as well. Whether or not that program, because it was successful, could be tapped into some of the larger or needier elementary schools as well.
I understand where you're going with this. Yes, absolutely. The best method for us is to have the same officers or the same officer assigned to all of the schools, both elementary or secondary. That familiarity pays dividends. And so that's what I would prefer. Trying to get there with all of these other pressures that we're in, the complexities we're facing that we'll speak about tonight probably. In other areas, it's trying to find an officer that we can put to that role, but it's one of the most critical, and I would submit that it's one of the most worthwhile and meaningful positions that we just have to find the resource to do that and put at least one to attend the schools and just kind of circulate around for familiarity reasons. I agree.
Councillor Herbert, then Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Thank you, Worship. Well, you know, Chief, I said that was the worst thing ever when they took the officer out of the school. When I did my ride along with, doesn't matter with who, but he was assigned to that school basically. There was no time frame. We'd have a lull and we whip over to that school. We'd walk the halls and come out. And he told me after, he says, he's had lots of kids say, I'll see you outside for a minute and bring an update give a name, this guy's on drugs and everything. So you can pass that on to your drug department. And it's just so foolish to listen to a few that say, oh, gee, it's discriminating. Wrong. Anyway, it's a great program. And I think my guy enjoyed it. He liked going into schools. He knew some of the kids, that's really good, eh? So anyway, it's just a comment. I think it's well overdue to come back. And I'm sure you felt the same way too, so.
Yes, go ahead. Do you have? I've got Councillor Baldwin-Sands still. She may ask you a question. Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Thank you. I go back to AMO last year where we did some advocacy around this specific issue and having a conversation with the chief prior to us attending AMO that last year. And we talked about prior to attending AMO how this does build incredibly positive relationships with the youth of our community and to teach them, and I believe in this wholeheartedly, that the police are who you run to, not who you run from. And that is something that Chief Roskamp has said over and over and over again, and that's why I fully support this program. And as, again, the daughter of a police officer, know the benefits of this growing up in this community firsthand. So thank you to the chief.
Go ahead.
Through your worship to Councillor Baldwin-Sands, I appreciate all the comments from council tonight, and it's heartening to hear that we have support from this level. This has been something that's been near and dear to us, and it has been disheartening over the last several years that we've become this oppressive presence or viewed as such, and therefore not welcome in the schools. So to come back to schools is where it's about. This is our most vulnerable demographic, our children, and we should be there to support them.
Chief, before you, thank you for that. And I know you're not my conversations about getting back into the schools was quite important, but I also want to say thank you because the the youth programs that kind of got developed when we couldn't be in schools are now still out there. I know the fishing derby, I think, was last weekend. I think the sports days with kids, whether it's at the Joe Thornton Center or wherever else, and a lot of your team members, men and women, are out there spending a lot of time letting them see that police are just as much fun as everybody else. And so please don't let that go away, and I know you won't, but as we move back into the schools, this will be people, kids in high schools now, seeing a police officer back in a high school that they got to play hockey with, or ball hockey, or go fishing with at a much younger age. So thank you for all you're doing with kids. Councillor Herbert?
Your worship, I noticed in the paper a while ago, the Catholic School Board looks like they're going to put it back in. Is the Thames Valley Board going to put it in, or is that still in the discussion stage? I'd be curious to know.
You'll be happy to know, and I'm happy to report that we were working on both, and we were on our way back this September in both school boards. Yes, the London District Catholic School Board was more advanced. They did not do a full withdrawal, but did a pause where the Thames Valley was a full stop, not to return. But we're working on that, and my discussions with the director of education of that school board, we're on our way back, and we were planning for this fall. So, Your Worship, I appreciate your comments. A lot of programs that we did generate over the last 4 years. The Crew and Seder, you're seeing a lot of media go out on that. We tried to bring that back to connect with youth, different ways to connect that are outside of the school environment. We'll continue those. So you'll see a lot more of those this summer.
Yeah, thank you. Further questions, Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate that. One of the things that I'm interested in is housing, of course, and I saw some of the statistics that are in the report seem to be quite alarming, you know, saying that there's 1,100 people on a waiting list.
Yep.
And that's a lot. The fact that we are housing 18 to 20, putting families into households, 18 to 20 of them every month, it's going to take an awful long time to reach that 1,100 down to zero. So since this incorporates Aylmer, County of Elgin, and the City of St. Thomas, I'm just curious as to how those other two communities are keeping up with us in housing. I'm not personally aware of what their housing is. I know what we're doing here in St. Thomas through Indwell, et cetera, but 130 people are experiencing homelessness in the region. I know most of those probably are in the St. Thomas numbers. From what I'm hearing, we're in the 100 number or thereabouts, but just wondering, curious as to what the other two communities are doing. Will we see that in the report? And should be noted too that there is a community forum coming up in the fall of 2025. I think that we need to publish that extensively across the city to get more people understanding of what is happening. And secondary, are we bringing families from other communities into St. Thomas in order to house them if that availability is not an option in the other two communities? Does that make sense? Okay.
Well, we brought the expert to the podium, so I'm going to let Heather do this. We through St. Thomas Social Services and Social Housing, we cover all of Elgin County and are very active in most of the communities you talked about, down to our smallest communities. But I'll let Heather share where some of those stats come from, how some of them seem insurmountable, but they're really a combination of a bunch of things. So Heather, go ahead.
Thank you. So the 1,100 on the wait list is for affordable housing. And so that will be from all areas, from St. Thomas and all through Elgin County. I don't have an exact number. If you wanted me to bring a report back, I could give you some information about that. We do an annual review of that list. So we make sure if people have found affordable housing, they come off the list and new people come on. It's fluid, of course, but it is a alarming number of people who are on the list for affordable housing. In our strategy for affordable housing, we have we've focused on homelessness to this point and supportive housing. We are now at the point where we can go to that next step, where we're looking at affordable housing? How can we build more affordable housing? Eastwood is a good example of that, where they aren't going to have necessarily supports attached, but they are going to be affordable. And we'll add 44 units to our community. We also use our portable benefits, our portable housing benefits, and our COB benefits, which are basically rent supplements, so that we can help people maintain their housing, keep it where they are. So any of the housing that is being built around the city could be accessed by people, and we could help them with an affordable subsidy. We're just working on it every day, trying to get more housing built.
Further questions on the community safety report?
Can I just add, there is a building in the west and the east being built right now, affordable housing.
Right.
With our support, yeah.
Perfect. Seeing no further questions on the report, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Next item relates to discretionary benefits for dental and dentures. A motion that report SCSS 1525 relating to discretionary benefits, dental and dentures be received for information. And further, the council authorize staff to implement the updated adult emergency dental and denture program as outlined in report SCSS 1525 and continue providing essential dental services to vulnerable residents in our community. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Councillor Herbert, then Councillor Kohler.
Thank you, Worship. Are these benefits mainly for non-union, or do union people get the same benefits?
Well, these would be people on OW, I would think.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, good evening.
Thanks, Joanne.
Yes, it is for people on Ontario Works.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Herbert? Or sorry, Councillor Kohler. I'm looking right at you.
Thanks, Your Worship. Glad to see this report come forward. I've had many concerns raised by some dentists that the program's previous funding, a lot of the dentists felt that some people were opting out of it. I see in the report that the president of Elgin Dental Society was consulted. Are they in favor of this recommendation? Do they feel that the funding provided for this will help get more of the dentists to make sure that they take on some of this workload?
So the conversation didn't specifically talk about rates, but it did talk about being a secondary payer when people are eligible for CDCP, and also talked about the people that aren't eligible for CDCP and trying to find that balance of equitable in there to make sure our clients can still be seen and receive services.
If I can ask, first of all, thank you to the dentists that are involved in this in our community. It's always a need that's out there. But the playing field's become confusing. The federal government got into dental programs that I'm sure some of these may also qualify for. The local health units, for those of you that sit on the health unit, they got involved in dental and under direction of the provincial government. How do we I won't say prevent. How do we include all of these? How do we make that all work for us rather than just great local dentists being very charitable with us and us helping, right? How do we know what else there is out there, and how do we direct people to it?
Sure. Well, the Canadian Dental Care Plan, it makes dental care more affordable, not necessarily free.
Right.
So there is a balance typically that dental offices would typically charge more than what they'll receive through that program. So that's part of the challenge. The other part of the challenge is every month we have right now about approximately 100 clients coming on Ontario Works, or 100 cases. So we're constantly having new people coming on and going off assistance.
Right.
So many people haven't completed their income tax. We have some people don't have ID. So a few of those, and we have more people that haven't completed their income tax, and you have to have your income tax completed to apply for the Canadian Dental Care Plan. So that's kind of a next step, right? So if someone's in an emergency and they're in dental pain or trauma, we need to get that fixed. They can't wait for how many weeks to make that happen. There are other programs. So there's a Healthy Smiles program through the health unit, and that program is for children. This program would only be for adults.
Okay. And the federal government program that kind of came into being and is now kind of morphed to be a little bigger, Are we having those dentists reach out? Or are we searching still for people who will help us with this, with dental needs? That may be a better way for me to ask the question.
Okay, so I think what I'm hearing you say is, are there dentists that are willing to work with us?
Right.
Yeah, so typically we have been really fortunate with the dental practitioners here in Elgin and St. Thomas. However, some of them are reflecting and saying that they will only do a certain number of people, or they'll only do a certain amount of service, and then they'll cap it at the end of the year. So as we get closer to the end of the year, it gets more difficult to find people that will do that, clinics that will help us with dental services.
Well, thank you for doing that lifting to make this happen. Councillor Kohler?
Thanks, Your Worship. Through that discussion, that's exactly the concern that was brought to me, is that the previous funding was not even covering their costs. So that's what the problem was. So that's why I was wondering if they were in favor of that, if we are getting closer to the point where their costs are being covered, because that's what was happening at that point. People were coming in through these programs, but the funding just didn't even come close to covering their costs. Not even to mention making profit, but they were losing money on this. So that's where I was hoping that when I seen that the president was consulted, that they were in favor of this, because I know there was a big concern that, because at the end of the day, if the funding's not going to cover it, eventually they're not going to provide it.
I'm confident, like I know that they would like the rates, I'm quite sure, to be even higher that we offer in the plan. However, we have to balance the money that we have available and what we can do. So this seems to be a balance, the best balance I could come up with, that will make it a little more equitable for the dental clinics and still keep us within budget.
I guess time will tell.
Yeah, but thank you for moving this far forward, at least. It's great. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried.
That
Thank you.
concludes the items for this committee, unless there are any items from the members. I believe Councillor Clark has an item.
Councillor Clark, did I see your hand?
Yeah, I think it's the right area, but we've seen work ongoing at the Joe Thornton Community Center on the roof. And I'm just wondering if that's in preparation for the solar panels that are going to be going on there.
But that's a great question. I don't know if we have an answer, but it's a great question. Mr. Dealerbeck, you're going to help us with that one?
Certainly can, through the mayor to Councillor Clark. Yes, that's exactly what that project is to get the solar panels up on that roof.
So what's the timeline for installment?
To be completed this fall.
Great. Thank you. Anything else under this committee? Seeing none.
We'll move to infrastructure and civic operations. First item relates to the on-street parking follow-up report. I have motion that report ES 2625 relating to the on-street parking follow-up be received for information. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Councillor Wookey, then Councillor Taylor.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. Just a quick comment to say that I fully support this, like where it says we need to have a higher level policy discussion versus ad hoc permitting. Like I've talked about this before. This is gonna get to be a bigger issue as the years pass, and I think that a time's coming very shortly. We're gonna have to support this one with some significant funding on both the perhaps enforcement end, but especially the IT end. So anyway, I'm looking forward to that higher level policy discussion. I think we've got a lot to talk about, and as St. Thomas densifies, this is a much bigger deal as time passes. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, I just wanted to comment that it's a timely issue. I'm going to wait and hold my questions on this report until we see 25C. Thank you.
Okay, great. Remind me and wave heavily. Okay. On this report, anything further? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to temporary use of interim excess land at Dalewood Water Reclamation Facility. I have a motion that report ID 1825 relating to the temporary use of interim excess land at the Dalewood Water Reclamation Facility be received for information. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Wookey.
Questions or comments on the report? Councillor Taylor.
I really like the idea of the fitness and sports spaces that could be developed. Could I ask that the possibility of lawn bowling go into the list as well? It's there's soccer and other things, but it was brought up a number of times that St. Thomas it's time for a lawn bowling club of some sort. So could I get that added?
Well, I'll ask that that's also added to our latest Parks and Rec master plan thoughts. As long as we're talking lawn bowling, let's make sure it ends up there too. So, Councillor Peters.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. A couple questions on this one. One is, is it laid in stone, these two parcels at 9.8 acres or 6.75, or can there be some adjustment of making a larger parcel than the other? So if that's question, is the house that is what I call the old Delau house, is that slated for demolition or is it going to remain standing? It is probably one of only two mud houses that is left standing in Elgin County. The last one was recently demolished up on Ron McNeil. And the last one is we're looking for options. I know the Aquatic Center needs about 8 acres of land. This is land that at some point we will own. Can this be a future Aquatic Center site?
Mr. Lawrence, great to have you here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So we started with 3 hard questions. Go.
Yeah, sure. So working backwards, the city owns the land at this point. It would not be a good location for anything permanent. So any kind of building would be within the 150-meter buffer of an ultimate expansion. So if you were able to build something in the green area now, you'd have to demolish it or seek special approval or not expand the plant in the future. So that's one limitation on that. In terms of that remaining house, we have not purchased that and we do not own that. And so the people will stay there. I would imagine that when it comes time for expansion, eventually that house will be purchased, but it's not in the footprint of any works that are planned at this point. So it could stay for whatever purpose that is. The barns in the back are part of the property that we purchased. So the barns are now the city's property. And then in terms of the split between the orange and the green, the plant layout is fixed. The blue line is fixed with the 150-meter buffer. But other than that, it's entirely up to city council. So whatever your interests are, we can start to develop those interests.
Can you lay out where the lawn bowling could be? I'm sorry, I'm early. I shouldn't be there. Further questions? Sorry, Lori. Councillor Baldwin Sands. I should look at my screen more often. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And I thank Mr. Lawrence for his comments thus far. My hope is that this report, once it is passed and including the additions that Councillor Taylor has proposed, that this be forwarded to the Community Center Aquatic Facility. And we can also take a deeper dive into this and look at the comments made by Mr. Lawrence in regards to an aquatic facility on site. And take it, as I say, take a look at what the opportunities are with what we're moving forward with in the community center portion of the program that we're working on.
Councillor Clark.
Thanks. Now that we've had this report, will this property be included in the rec master plan?
I would say yes. So yes, because it's available land for recreational use. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. There's a list of sports, basketball, et cetera stuff. I'm assuming there's not an indoor basketball court would ever happen, or are they all external courts that you're talking about?
Everything that's suggested in the green area would be something that you'd be willing to remove when the future plant got expanded. So probably outdoor only, and any kind of investment that you'd be willing to take out or give up on the expansion of the plant, or hope that, I guess, the rules change whenever that time comes up.
Okay. Councillor
Just
Herbert
follow
and
up
then
there.
Councillor Wood.
So when you're talking these different courts and stuff, is the expectation there'd be a fundraiser to do that? Or you go to specific groups that want to use them? Or is it all funded by the city?
To be clear, this report is solely to do with what's possible for council to contemplate. It's not contemplated to design or build or plan any of these things at this point. It's just laying it out there, very early days, so you could have the information and then you could talk about what you want to direct for staff to do.
Councillor Wookie.
Thanks, Your Worship. I would like to see, when you said no permanent structures, my mind goes to, like they have in East London, the turf field that's got the seasonal dome on it. Would that be something that would be acceptable in that area? Or is that, obviously you can take it down and take out the turf, but would that be for your appetite a little bit too permanent? Thanks.
Is that permanent?
It's really up to council. It's whatever you'd be willing to either take down in the future or not expand the plant. What year will that happen in? Who knows? What will the rules be at that time? Who knows? So it's really up to council, but they whatever it was would probably be removed, would have to be removed.
Okay. Further questions on the potential land use at the water reclamation facility? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to the 2025 road rehabilitation tender. I have a motion that report ES 2525 relating to the road rehabilitation tender 2025-014 award be received, and for the council award tender 2025-014 to GIP Paving Incorporated in the amount of $1,248,400 excluding HST, and further the council endorse the removal of parking on the north side of Vanier Place in favor of adding a sidewalk, and further the council direct that a bylaw be prepared to amend traffic and parking bylaw 45-89 accordingly. Moved by Councillor Wookie, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments on the report? Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. Are some of these items that are listed, the places listed, are they part of our master plan for replacement of all these things over a 10-year period? And you can look at our master plan, it says this street, this street, this street. Vanier Place, they're going to do the whole street, it looks like. So I just wondered, is it part of a master plan, or is it something extra that has to be done?
Well, I think every year we talk about the complete streets plan, and that, yes, that's part of the case, but some of these are more, or can be simply removal of asphalt and reapplication. But I got an expert that can handle it, and the mayor doesn't have to.
Through the mayor to Councillor Herbert. Yeah, the projects that are identified here are part of our asset management plan to keep our good roads in good condition. And that's identified in our 10-year capital plan. We're working on making that better through our asset management software upgrade and continual improvement as we find how our roads are doing and that. So it's a work in progress, but yes, they're in the 10-year capital plan. We're trying to keep our good roads in good condition. That's part of our road rehab program. And that's why these roads are selected.
Please go ahead, Jim.
Well, thank you. So how are these places designated? You have a team that goes out the city and say, this is what we want to do, or is it resident complaint from the taxpayer?
In terms of the road condition, we've done road condition surveys to identify what the pavement condition index for each street in the city. And we've recently done a new one for the entire city, which is done this year, actually. And that helps us to prioritize the roads that are needing the upgrades most.
Councillor Gibson.
Yes, I would just like to say thank you. I really appreciate to see 5 or 6 items there from the MAC committee. We did a tour of the community, and I'm really proud to say the departments are working really diligently to make sure that there's accessibility to everyone. And I just want to say thank you for your quickness in looking at that and having it here today.
Good work. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to the street railway, which is the South Pavilion Replacement Tender Award. As council will have seen, notice of this increased capital expenditure appeared on this evening's agenda. I have a motion that report PRF 2825 relating to the street railway, the South Pavilion Replacement Tender Award be received for information. And for the council award tender 2025-031 to Roebuck Contracting Limited in the amount of $299,415 plus HST. And further, the council approve additional funding from the Canada Community Building Fund Reserve. Moved by Councillor Wookey.
So move.
As seconded by Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
That concludes the items under this committee, unless the members have any further items. Seeing none, we'll move into corporate governance and administration. The first item relates to the 2024 financial results. I have a motion that report TR 1425 relating to the 2024 financial results be received for information, and for the council authorize that the 2024 deficit be offset from reserves. Moved by Councillor Kohler, second by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Councillor Kohler first, Councillor Clark after.
Thanks, Your Worship. Reports like this, I guess, are from time to time, but I think any other time I'd be pretty worried. But the way things are going and what we have coming down the pipe in the future, I just think that we need to be more mindful and pretty strategic in the next couple of years' budgets and making sure that we do not place the burden on the existing taxpayer of today, because we do have future revenue that we know is coming forward. So hopefully this is just a good starting point as to how we'll make sure that we integrate this into the next couple of years' budgets.
Great. Councillor Clark?
Well, thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, I talked with staff, and just in terms of this is the first year in 4 or 5 years that we've actually had a deficit. And, you know, some years it's been as much a surplus of, $1 million, $1.5 million. So I think, as Councillor Kohler alluded to, it's an anomaly, but we want to be careful as we budget and looking at things next year that it doesn't become a trend. Thanks.
And I would thank our treasurer for his diligence at looking at this. I know that when we sit around this table sometime in December, we go, well, can't we just take it all out of reserves? This tells us why we don't do that to the degree, in case we have to, the reserves are still there for us to be able to get through a current year that has some expenditures. So I thank this council for, even though we sometimes ask for just one more point off taxes, this is part of our reason why sometimes it's hard to do. Further questions or comments? Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. This would be directed to Mark Eiting. Certainly interesting reports, and I look at all the things that are happening downtown and going on, but who actually does the measurement of all these initiatives that you've got going on? How are they reported? Different departments, or like how do you measure initiatives? I can see you got some percents, but who's doing that? Where do the stats come from?
Through Your Worship, to Councillor Herbert. So the data analysis, are you referring to the July report with regards to the
14% and basically?
So one of the areas that when I become chief, I wanted to bring in a crime analyst. And I think it's so vitally important for the Police Services Board, for City Council, for our community to be informed on precise data. And there are so many good things that we're doing out there that are hard to track. But with a crime analyst, data analytics and software that we have now, we're able to produce really positive, tangible results. And in some cases, it can tell us the opposite. We're areas where we have to focus. In the report in July that I produced for the Police Services Board, which you have a copy, there are some major reductions that we should be proud of. And that goes to the investments made by the Police Services Board and the City Council. So.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to a declaration of compliance for Valley View Home. I have a motion that report VV0325 relating to the declaration of compliance for 2025 be received for information, and further the council approve the compliance declaration for Valley View Home and authorize staff to forward it to Ontario Health, and further that a bylaw be prepared to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the declaration of compliance relating to the long-term care home service accountability agreement. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments on the report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any? So are you voting, Laurie, or you have a question?
I'm voting.
Okay, great, super. All right. So that was passed. Any opposed? None. Thank you.
Next item relates to declaration of compliance for the Adult Day Program. I have a motion that VV0425 relating to the 2025 declaration of compliance be received for information, and further council approve the compliance declaration for Valley View Home and authorize staff to forward it to Ontario Health, and further that a bylaw be prepared to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the declaration of compliance relating to the Adult Day Program. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. And can I ask, I know that this council became the kind of board of directors of the Valley View programs. Did we just do that work? Is that what? No, this isn't that? Okay. This is something else. This is just council being council. Thank you.
That concludes the items, Your Worship, for this committee, unless the members have any further items.
Seeing none.
Council will now reconvene into regular session. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of council and committee of the whole, as recorded in the minutes of this date, be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next, we move into reports of committees. The first report that was attached to the agenda was a report from the police chief relating to Bill 10, Protect Ontario Through Safer Streets and Stronger Communities Act 2025, Schedule 8, introduction of new proposed measures respecting premises with Illegal Drug Activity Act.
Do I need a mover and seconder for that? No?
It's just for information, unless the members had any questions of the chief.
Okay. Councillor Peters?
Thanks very much, Your Worship, and Chief, thanks for the report. Point number 2, premises declared unsafe. How do we ensure as a city that we're working closely with you, our building officials, and our fire, because they all seem to be interrelated. I can think of one not far away from where we stand right now on St. Catherine Street that it took the longest time to get the place boarded up and secured. And so how do we make sure that if a building is identified, that your police personnel are coordinating with city building officials and coordinating with fire to make sure that we're all on the same page to get these buildings secured? Because we've seen, and as you pointed out in a recent email to all of us, the challenges of having unsecured buildings and the holes that it leaves in our community.
Chief?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Peters, that's a great point and well understood. We have a very robust leadership team here in St. Thomas. We're connected through departments. My staff, through our street crimes unit, our criminal investigations, they're constantly in connection with both social services, the fire department when it comes to these drug-related premises. I can tell you it's fairly quickly when it relates to trafficking and drug dens in our city that we shut down pretty quickly with the assistance of the fire department and the areas that they can assist with. This new proposed legislation, specifically Schedule 8, is going to give us expanded powers, and it's going to allow us to move much more quickly. We move at a quick pace. That's what I prefer. And the partners that stand with me, behind me, with the leadership of city manager, we move fairly quickly, and we will do that.
Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. Do the special constables have any input into some of these things like drugs and stuff? Did they contact you and say there's drugs and stuff like that? I mean, they're very visible. I just wonder what part they play in some of these stats.
For your worship to Councillor Herbert, the special constable team has responsibilities in a very narrow column, but one of them, they are still part of our team, and they are constantly informing through intelligence channels to all of our undercover teams, our frontline teams, our community engagement, our community mobilization teams to take the action that we need. But those special constables are there for a reason, and they have eyes, and they provide intelligence to our teams. So they do have a very narrow column, but what you're referring to, they are active, very active.
To the worship, just to follow up, do you have stats for the special constables, like a separate indication, say, this is what these people are doing, and list, because they're very great downtown. Anytime I see them, they're very talkative. But anyway, I just wonder, you have a stat for them.
Councillor Herbert, we absolutely, through the crime analysts that we have a number of stats that are presented to the Police Services Board on a monthly basis with regards to what the special constables are doing, what all of the teams are doing, and if there's a specific request at any point that we want to see and move into more micro stats for this team, I'd be glad to produce that to council. They're there. We have the stats, and they are busy.
Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Your Worship. Through you to the chief. Just wondering, for the average citizen that's seeing this, if you would just kind of talk to us a little bit about, in layman's terms, how Bill 10 is going to help you. What can the average citizen, expect in terms of a change?
Chief?
Through your worship to Councillor Clark, that's a great question. It's going to give us expanded powers to target drug-related activities on specific properties in our city. Key provisions include the expanded police powers with regards to drug-related premises, enhanced penalties for property owners and tenants who enable illegal drug activities in the city and/or suspicious activities. It emphasizes the act on community collaboration, public awareness, and addictions recovery programs. So all of that to say, the act, as I've listed here in, I think, 9 points, it moves from expanded powers for us to shut down and declare premises unsafe. There's accountability and reporting mechanisms that it requires, and it requires collaboration with enhanced collaboration with in a multi-sectoral and a multi-departmental way with our health units and our social services. And it requires prevention and education initiatives. All of this, prior to this piece of legislation, is what we work on every day. But this is going to give us some expanded powers. I think that's what I take from this, that we're going to have a little more teeth to do what we need to do to protect our community.
Go ahead.
Supplementary is just what change does this have for the landlord? Does it give you any more powers to get them a little more active and responsible in terms of their ownership of the property?
100. Through your worship to Councillor Clark, it absolutely does. This legislation, that's the whole purpose of this, was to give us those enhanced, expanded powers to put pressure on landlords and or slumlords and to ensure that they clean up their properties. and that they protect their tenants as well. Those tenants who are vulnerable, who are living in their properties, need to be protected as well. And this piece of legislation focuses on property owners, landlords, superintendents who know and are allowing or are turning a blind eye to trafficking in their buildings.
Further questions of the chief on this report? Councillor Kohler?
So this is excellent. And I just want to make sure, like, we're not just talking derelict properties. We're talking about properties that people are living in that maybe are manufacturing or trafficking through that too. These powers are going to expand into those operations too. It seems like the whole neighborhood knows what's going on there, but we've not been able to do anything in the past, but we will now be able to do that with this bill.
Through your worship to Councillor Kohler, you're absolutely right. This is not just a certain property or a certain type of properties. As we know, it's transitional and supportive housing, homeless shelters, drop-in service centers, residential of all kind. It's going to give us more leverage to shut down and take action. And again, as I wanted to allude to in my report, we are well resourced to handle this new piece of legislation. Should it be enacted, we're ready to go.
Further comment to the chief? Chief, thank you for the report. We don't often get a report that is partway through the process. You've been asked by the provincial government to give your input on these changes on C10 or Bill 10. But thank you for including us in the discussion. We get asked these questions and sometimes don't know what your position is. You've not left it unclear with us tonight as to what your position is on the legislation they're asking you about. So thank you.
Next item relates to the St. Thomas Public Library Lower Courtyard Construction Tender Award. I have a motion that report STPL 0125 relating to the St. Thomas Public Library Lower Entrance Courtyard Construction Tender Award 2025-026 be received for information, and for the Council Award Tender 2025-026 submitted by Avero Constructors Limited in the amount of $723,781.87, excluding HST. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next few reports relate to heritage alteration permits. The first one relates to 730 Talbot Street. I have a motion that report MHC 0525 relating to the heritage alteration permit for the property at 730 Talbot Street be received for information, and for the council issue a heritage alteration permit for the property at 730 Talbot Street relating to application HAP 0125. Moved by Councillor Clark, second by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Second permit relates to 423 Talbot Street. I have a motion that report MHC 0625 relating to the heritage alteration permit for 423 Talbot Street be received for information, and for the council issue a heritage alteration permit for the property at 423 Talbot Street relating to application HAP 0225. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next alteration permit is for 368 Talbot Street. I have a motion that report MHC 0725 relating to the heritage alteration permit for 368 Talbot Street be received for information, and for the council issue a heritage alteration permit for the property at 368 Talbot Street relating to application HAP 0325. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Last permit relates to the property at 791 Talbot Street. I have a motion that report MHC 0825 relating to the heritage alteration permit for 795 Talbot Street be received for information, and for the council issue a heritage alteration permit for the property at 795 Talbot Street relating to application HAP 0425. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
That concludes the reports. We'll now move into petitions and communications. First item is a request for a proclamation, flag raising, and jumbo lighting by the Elgin County Drowning Prevention Coalition. I have a motion that the Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim July 20th to 26th, 2025 as Drowning Prevention Week in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Elgin County Drowning Prevention Coalition flag be flown at City Hall from July 21st to 26th, 2025, and further that the Jumbo Monument be lit in blue for the week from July 21st to July 26th, 2025.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried.
Next item is a request for jumbo lighting for World Duchenne Awareness Day. I have motion that the jumbo monument be lit in red on September the 7th, 2025 in recognition of World Duchenne Awareness Day. Moved by Councillor Taylor, second by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item, a letter has been received regarding overnight on-street parking from Stephen Richardson of 35 Kane Street. If it is the wish of council, I could have a motion that the letter be referred to Environmental Services for a report. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Councillor Taylor?
This was the one I was talking about previously. It seems to talk about the on-street parking, correct?
Yes.
And it seems to be that the on-street parking discussion is going to happen in the fall. So are we going to tackle this problem? This is the type of problem that 14, whatever item 14 something on the agenda is going to tackle, correct? That's what I'm looking for. Because the on-street parking seems to be a problem. And it was highlighted by this letter that we received, and I feel sorry for this fellow, but the sooner the better we tackle this, the better.
I'm going to ask Kevin. I know that we're referring it back to you because this letter's on our agenda tonight. Is there a way you can maybe expedite it a little bit to come back to us?
Certainly, Mayor Preston, Councillor Taylor, this is a little bit of a unique situation where the tenant's asking for something, not the property owner. So we can expedite a response to this.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kevin. Sorry, we had that moved and seconded. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? I forgot where I was for a minute. I got it now. I'm back.
Next item relates to a letter received from the Ministry of Rural Affairs regarding the Rural Ontario Development Program, funding program as part of the Enabling Opportunity Ontario's Rural Economic Development Strategy, and the deadline for applications to the program is September the 24th, 2025. The next item, a letter received from the Ministry of Infrastructure regarding asset management planning. The deadline to have an asset management plan in place was July 1st, 2025, and I have it under good representation that the city has completed its asset management plan. The last item under petitions is a letter received from the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority regarding comments from by Conservation Ontario about Bill 5, the Protect Ontario by Unleashing Our Economy Act, and Bill 17, the Protect Ontario by Building Faster and Smarter Act. Unless the members have any further items under petitions and communications, Your Worship, we'll now move into unfinished business of council. If the members have any information or any comments at this time, if not, we will now move into council new business.
Councillor Herbert, you're up first.
Thank you, Worship. Could we get an update on our big project with the bridge removal? Are they on time? Is Burwell and Talbot? just the status of where we're at. Are you ahead or behind or?
How are we doing on the bridge?
Sorry, Mayor Preston, you caught me. I was typing an email. I wasn't paying attention. Could you repeat the question?
Update on the bridge.
Fairview Ave.
The
Bridge
Fairview Ave
removal.
Bridge.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a resident expert here that might be able to answer that question a little bit more.
I was wondering why you didn't just send your expert. to
He's
the
on top
podium,
of it.
but-
No, that's fine. Through the mayor to Councilor Herbert, the project is going well. We're working on the north side where we have some sanitary sewer work, some storm sewer to replace, and some water main. And then once that's done, we can flip traffic over to work on the south side, which will also be the bridge removal. We can do some of the work on the bridge removal earlier. We're working with the contractor to find out when exactly that's going to happen, but it's on schedule, on track to get done for the end of the fall. No problem.
Perfect. Anything else under new business? I've got a couple. First of all, I wanted to thank both our fire service and our police services with the downtown fire and our own helpers. And of course, even Stribe, who helped us with trucking stuff away that night. A big event in our community, and this happens. We, first of all, on the hottest night of the year, not the most comfortable time to be dealing with a great big fire, but we did it and looked good doing it. And we thank you all for all the hard work that the services put in over that night. On a second topic, we had Nostalgia Nights Saturday downtown. I don't know why we call it Nostalgia Nights anymore. I mean, it starts about noon now.
We actually had an EV there too.
Yeah, well, and it was a warm day with a plethora of people in our downtown. It was about as busy as we want it to be. Parking was a premium for all of our classic cars. There was some gorgeous stuff, but I mostly want to thank the volunteer groups that come out and really help us with it. I know the Optimists did a great job, but the Downtown Development Board and all of their volunteers, it was a warm day Saturday downtown, and I thank them all for their hanging out and hanging in to make it happen. Fantastic music and a lot of great cars on the street. So thanks, St. Thomas, you look good. That's all my new business. I'm sure there's about 100 events I should talk about that I have not. It was wet at the seniors picnic last Wednesday, but still a good, vibrant crowd out there. And I'd like to thank the councillors that also came out to say hi to the people at the seniors picnic. I think I'm done new business.
Thank you, Your Worship. We'll now move into bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws. Moved by Councillor Peters, second by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Herbert, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on the 14th day of July, 2025.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next bylaw, please.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of corporation to a certain agreement between the city, Make Space St. Thomas Property GP Limited, and Make Space St. Thomas Property LP. This relates to a site plan file for 420 South Edgeworth Road for a self-storage facility.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next bylaw, please.
Third bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Multiland Pacific Wash Limited. This relates to site plan file for 1022 Talbot Street for a car wash.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next bylaw, please.
Fourth bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and LaCram Incorporated. This relates to Sandy Mount Subdivision Phase 1, 73 lots for single detached dwellings, 8 blocks for 2 townhome units, 2 blocks for future high-density development, and blocks for parkland reserves and stormwater.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next bylaw, please.
Fifth bylaw is a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Landrise Developments Incorporated. This relates to Sandy Mount Subdivision, 77 lots for single detached dwellings, 2 lots for 8 townhouse dwellings, 1 block for high-density residential, and blocks for walkways, parkland, stormwater, and open space.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next bylaw, please.
Sixth bylaw is a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Dr. Chris Alana. This relates to health recruitment partnership incentive funding.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next bylaw, please.
Seventh bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a declaration of compliance relating to long-term care service accountability agreement at Valley View Home.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next bylaw, please.
Eighth bylaw is a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a declaration of compliance relating to adult day program at Valley View Home.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next bylaw.
Ninth and final bylaw is a bylaw to amend bylaw 45-89, being a bylaw to revise and consolidate certain bylaws regulating traffic and the parking of motor vehicles. This relates to no parking zone at Vanier Place.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Your worship, I rise to report the successful passing of 9 bylaws.
I have motion by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Herbert, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the 9 bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next order of business is public notice. Notice has been provided of a public information center to be held on July 24th, 2025 from 5 to 7 p.m. at the St. Thomas Algood Memorial Center Auditorium on 80 Wilson Avenue, and it relates to the St. Thomas Transportation Master Plan. Next order of business, notices of motion. A notice of motion has been received by Councillor Taylor attached to the agenda regarding emergency shelter alternative locations. This motion will be dealt with at the next agenda in August, and at that time will require a seconder. Your worship, that concludes the items in the open session. There is a need to move into closed session. I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with 3 matters of a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiation carried on or on to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality, a proposed or pending disposition of land, 2 labor relations matters, and a personal matter about an identifiable individual. Moved by Councillor Wookey, second by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments on moving into closed session? Seeing none, I'll remind the folks at home, and we had some guests here in the gallery, that we'll be moving into closed session. This council will rise from closed only to pass the work done in closed or to adjourn for the evening. So thank you for those that spent more than 2 hours with us tonight. That's a full month's worth of council meetings, so thank you. And those in favor of going to closed session? Any opposed? It's carried. We will be in closed and come back after.